Every good fisherman or fisherwoman has a secret spot, a honey hole you could call it. Ours, which will no longer be a secret now, is about a mile beyond a public boat launch on the White River. Just a couple of miles off Highway 14, about halfway between Mountain View and Batesville, there's a one-lane dirt road that leads down to a boat launch almost midway between two dams. It's just a rutted, one-lane road with a few pullover areas in the rare event that you met another vehicle. The trees along both sides of the road were thick and top-heavy from lack of sunlight. They leaned across the road and formed a sort of shaded arch all the way to the boat launch. There were no houses, no side roads, no driveways, therefore no power lines to require a 60-foot swath of barren and butchered right-of-way. My husband, Joe, is an avid fisherman, and his love of the sport rubbed off on me not long after we married. Although our fishing styles are polar opposite, he likes to use the trolling motor and fish for bass, moving from spot to spot, while I'm more of a line and bobber fish-in-place type. Somehow, we make it work and always enjoy our time on the water. Well, almost always. Now about this favorite fishing spot. We rarely encounter others there, it's so far off the beaten path. Probably the main reason for it being a favorite. Certainly not because we always catch fish there, because we don't. Always. Located between two dams, there are only a few miles of fishing water, but it's a beautiful area with quite a variety of fish habitat. There are rock wall drop-offs, deep holes, sandy shallows, and brushy log jams, not to mention the dams themselves. Just change your type of lure and move from place to place, and you're sure to find something that's biting on that particular day. The boat launch is a favorite swimming hole for the locals. Just to the right of the little dock, there's a long sandy bank that gently slopes down into a deep swimming hole. Youngsters can splash around in the shallow end, and the older kids can dive off the big old metal dredge that's tied up a few yards away. The dredge is probably not a permanent fixture, but it's been there every time we have. On this particular day, there were several teenagers playing an aggressive game of King of the Hill atop a huge block of pressed styrofoam that floated several feet away from the bank. I can't imagine how they came to acquire it or where it ended up, but it sure looked like fun. The river was terribly low back in the summer of 2012. So low, in fact, we had a pretty tough time launching the boat. We also had to be extremely careful maneuvering once on the water because of submerged logs. If you fish a place often enough, you get to know where the obstacles are, but as the water gets lower, the same old fishing grounds become an all-new experience. Joe and I had been on the water for a few hours and had been slowly making our way back closer to the boat launch as the day began to fade. We stopped at a big log jam wrapped around an overhanging tree and stuck back into a depression in the bank. We tied onto a limb sticking up from the jam, hoping for one last fish before leaving. Well, actually, we were hoping for a fish before leaving. So far, we were skunked. Suddenly, there was a thrashing in the brush from the bank high above us, and a small, quite aged woman came barreling down the bank, half sliding, half running. She came to a stop at the water's edge. She was 80 years old if she was a day, and her face was as sun-dried as a plum too long on the tree. She was bent and sinewy, but as agile as a cat as she lifted her apron and quickly sidestepped down the bank and hopped onto the log. She gave us a quick glance, a big smile, said howdy how are y'all, and began to tug at a piece of black PVC pipe that snaked down into the tangle of brush and logs. She wrestled with the pipe, tugging it first one way then the other, trying to pull it free of the log jam. The old woman said, "This here's Ma water pipe from my garden, and it's sucking air about ever other breath. Ma Mater Vines is about sprawled flat, it's so dry up there." She continued to try to jerk the pipe loose. Joe asked, "Can we help you?" The old woman replied, "Nah, I can get it. It gets tangled up like this every now and again when the river gets low like this. Lower in, I've seen it in years." She struggled with the pipe. Joe pulled the boat closer to the bank, retied it, and hopped out. He took hold of the pipe, and with a couple of tugs, it broke free. "There you go," Joe said. He then stepped back into the boat. "Hey, now that sure did it. I sure do thank you. Now can you get a hold of the end there and put it out a little farther? Out there past that there tree root?" She smiled and continued to pull on the pipe until she got it out of the water. I sure do, thank you. Now, can you get a hold of the end there and put it out a little farther, out there past that there tree root? She pointed. We repositioned the pipe farther out as directed. I could tell she was pleased with its new position. She smiled broadly, then stopped and gave us a good looking over, as if deciding what to say next. Despite her backwoods demeanor and language, I could see the gleam of wisdom in her eyes. This was an intelligent, competent, self-sufficient woman. I found myself wishing I knew more about her. Y'all catching much today? She asked as she put her hands on her hips, still smiling. No, not a thing, but it was sure a pretty day out today, Joe replied. It sure enough is that indeed. When I wake up to a day like today, I just can't hardly wait to get out in it. What you using for bait? Her eyes twinkled. Joe raised his lure out of the water. A shiny spinnerbait with a lime green skirt hung limply from the end of his rod. The old woman spoke. You know these here bass are trapped up in here, in this little bit of water between these here two dams, and there's plenty of bugs dropping off all these trees lining the banks. She raised her arm up and waved from left to right. The old woman continued. A lot of people think the racket'll make 'em mad, and they'll strike, but that ain't so. They'll just hug the bank hoping you'll go away and let 'em hunt up another bug. So, you need to come in quiet like, fish the banks and give 'em something that looks like a bug. Here, try this next time you come. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a wine cork with a fishing fly stuck to it. Here, try this next time you come, she added. You can use it on your rod and reel. Don't need a fly rod. Just stay close to the bank and a good hole like this one here. She pitched the fly over to Joe. You can use it on your rod and reel. Don't need a fly rod. Just stay close to the bank and a good hole like this one here. Joe said, well, thanks a lot. I'll give it a try. Joe examined the handmade fly. Y'all better think about getting off the water. Don't choose stay out here too late. They's booger dogs out here some nights. If I's you'uns, I'd be getting out of here about now. She looked up the river toward the launch. Booger dogs? Yep, booger dogs. They run in a pack. You get through a fish-in and come up to the bank. They won't let chew out of the boat. Won't let chew up the launch either. I heard a few times about some fancified city folks spending the night out on the water 'cause of booger dogs. I looked over at Joe, thinking that actually it was getting a little late. I can't tell you how many times over the years I seen a bunch of youngins come flying by my place, screaming like banshees, running 60 to nothing, like the hounds of hell is after 'em, yelling, bugger dogs, bugger dogs! She put her hands on her hips, threw her head back, and laughed out loud. Are they wild dogs? Has anyone ever reported it or looked for them? Maybe they could trap them. I reeled my line in. Old woman, don't do no good to look for 'em. Law and a lot of other people done that before, and ain't nobody ever seen no trace of a booger dog in the daylight. They's just here in the late evening and at night. They's like ghost dogs, spirit dogs or something like that. They don't leave no tracks. She laughed all the way to the top of the bank and disappeared through the brush. I've often thought of that woman since then. Not just because of the booger dogs, but simply because she was such a character, or should I say she had such character, such presence, and such spirit. Obviously, she'd had a tough life and still had the wherewithal to just get the job done. No complaining, just do it. And she was happy, she enjoyed life, it sparkled in her eyes. Each time we've gone back to that particular boat launch, I've thought about the woman. If we were to continue straight on down the road past the boat launch, we would come to her place. I know about how far down we were when we helped her with the pipe. I wonder if she was able to save her maters. I wonder if she's still in good health. I wonder what her life is like. I wonder what she would think if she knew what an impression she'd made on one fancified city woman. That single encounter with that little old apron-clad country lady had a profound impact on me. That one experience impressed me more than all the self-help books I could have read in a lifetime. Her spirit was so alive, so vibrant. She made me realize that happiness is not an age, happiness is not how much you have, where you're going, or where you've been. It's as simple as looking forward to each day as it comes and being thankful that it has. It's in the enjoyment of now. The teenagers were nowhere to be seen when we got back to the dock. Even the Volkswagen-sized styrofoam block was gone. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that just as we were leaving that day and pulling the boat up the launch, we heard a noise just downriver. Yip, 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 yip! A whole chorus of yipping. We could hear it all the way up to the top of the launch. Joe said, "Coyotes?" Still, we never stay too late on the water when we fish at that particular spot between the dams.